Assalamualaikum and a very good morning. My name is Nur Hanis Syafiqah Binti Azeman, and I would like to present my research project for this semester, which is called Production of Tilapia Feed from Duckweed. In the aquaculture industry, fish meal is one of the main components to tilapia's growth performance. Commercial fish feed is made of fish meal plus fish oil. Fish meal contains cooked processed fish and nutrients from cereal grain. However, production of fish meal is highly dependent on the availability of fish stock, which makes it expensive and less accessible. Thus, over the past decade, researchers have tried to replace cooked processed fish in the fish meal with highly nutritious plants that have almost the same amount of protein. So the objective of this research is to find the suitable content of duckweed in a mixture of duckweed and cornstarch that contains 25% to 35% crude protein for fish meal. So what I did was I had to determine the amount of protein content in the duckweed first before I explored the variation of the recipe from article readings to find the optimal amount of duckweed in the feed mixture. And this is because we do not have the time to actually see the growth performance of the tilapia fish. So we're just gonna we're just gonna make some conclusion, some studies, some analysis from studies from other people's studies. So yeah. As for the experiment, we're using the CEST method to determine the protein content, where it involves distillation and titration for the sample as shown in the flow chart above. The method that we're using is CEST method, which is a common method where it involves, like I said, distillation and titration in order to determine the protein content. So the result obtained for the protein content in the duckweed is 20% for the whole duckweed. This shows that the crude protein contained in the duckweed falls in the conventional range, which is in between 19.8% to 48.2%. So it means the duckweed can still be used as protein substitution in tilapia feed, even though it is quite low. And this is probably because the protein content of duckweed is affected by the species, growth conditions, and the method of extracting the protein content itself. The low protein content might be due to undetermined duckweed species, as different species have different value of average protein content. For example, like the average protein content of species Algiba is 25.2% and L. punctuta is 28.7%. And besides that, according to a study, a colony of duckweed growing on nutrient-poor water typically is around 15% to 25% of protein. So considering the percentage of protein in the duckweed obtained is 20%, then it is relevant to say that the duckweed absorbed insufficient amount of nutrient during its growth that makes the protein content is a little bit low. So next we're moving on to the table. We can see the percentage composition of experimental diet, and there are like 3% of protein, and for each of the percentage we have different ratio for duckweed and cornstarch, and that is where we want to determine which is the best ratio for this recipe. So we can see that for the 25% of protein, there are 3.8% of duckweed and 22.7% of cornstarch, and for the 30% protein, there are 7.9% duckweed and 18.6% of cornstarch. 35% duckweed, there are 11.8% of duckweed and 14.7% of cornstarch. So to relate that, we have to look at the next table, which is the growth performance based on percentage composition of the tilapia. So we can see that for 25% protein inclusion, the growth rate is at 0.099 gram per day, while the 30% is 0.091 gram per day, and for the 35% it's 0.079 gram per day. So we can see that 25% inclusion of protein shows the best result. The growth rate of duck wheat and cornstarch is deteriorating as the percentage level increases, which means if the level of protein in the fish feed exceeds 35%, it will deteriorate the growth of the fish. Thus, it is believed that the range of protein levels stays in between 25 to 35%. However, 35% inclusion of protein had the best specific growth compared to 30% and 35%, which means it can be said that 25% inclusion of duck wheat gives 25% inclusion of duck wheat and cornstarch gives the most optimum result in terms of the amount of protein as well as the food conversion ratio. In terms of cost, considering that feed can represent up to 70% of total production cost in tilapia culture, is due to the increasing price of fish meal. So from using duck wheat, which is originated from plant and have excellent amino acid profile, besides being a cheaper alternative protein source, it will reduce the cost of it as it is sold at a minimum duck wheat selling price at RM34, and to be compared to fish meal, which the price has reached RM5000 per metric ton this year. So it is also indirectly contributing to a circular economy as well. This is because growing duck wheat will rapidly take up nutrients and break down other environmentally damaging products such as lipids and sugars. Thus, by utilizing duck wheat, which is a source of high quality aquatic based protein, it then can be used as a feed supplement for animals to avoid the problems stated above. So in conclusion, duck wheat is a good supplementary food for tilapia, and 25% of duck wheat in the mixture shows the optimum result for tilapia growth. And by using duck wheat, we can help reduce the cost and promote closed loop in ecosystem. So as for the recommendation, I recommend that we have further studies with improved methodologies and comprehensive measurements. Besides, we can maybe vary the mixture of duck wheat with other components other than cornstarch, such as rice bran, to see that if mixing duck wheat and rice bran will help better than mixing duck wheat and cornstarch. So that's it for me. Thank you.